Ever really wondered how a camera actually works? You know, how it just freezes a moment in time, turning something that's gone in a flash into a permanent image? It totally feels like magic, right? But it's actually this amazing dance of physics and engineering. And today, we're gonna break it all down. I mean, just think about it for a second. You press one little button, and a fleeting moment, a smile, a sunset, you name it, is captured forever. It feels instantaneous, but inside that little box, this whole lightning fast sequence is playing out. At its very core, every single photograph you've ever seen is just a story. It's the story of light's journey, from the world all around us, into the camera, and finally landing on a sensor. So let's follow that journey, step by step. And here's the great news. This whole seemingly complex process, it really just boils down to four main steps. It's kind of like a perfectly choreographed relay race, where light is the baton getting passed from one crucial part to the next. Okay, so where does it all begin? Well, every single photo starts with light reflecting off of, well, everything you see. So the very first job of the camera is to gather up all that scattered light from the scene and wrestle it into focus. And that is the job of the lens. See, a lens isn't just a window. It doesn't just let light in. Its curved shape is absolutely key. It actually bends the rays of light, forcing them to meet at a single point to create a sharp, recognizable image. Without that focusing power, all you'd get is a blurry mess of color. And what's so cool about this is how familiar it should sound, because your own eye works the exact same way. The lens in your eye is constantly gathering light and focusing it onto your retina. A camera, in so many ways, is really just a mechanical version of our own biology. Pretty wild, huh? Okay, so the lens has gathered the lights and brought it into focus. But how much of that light do we actually want? Because if you let in too much, the picture is totally washed out. Too little, and it's way too dark. The camera needs a gatekeeper. And that gatekeeper is called the aperture. The best way to think of it is like a faucet for light. You can open it up really wide to let a flood of light pour in, or you can close it down to just a tiny trickle. This is what directly controls how bright or dark your photo is. And yup, you guessed it, our own bodies have the perfect comparison. The aperture is basically the camera's pupil. You know how when you walk into a dark room, your pupils get huge to let in more light? The camera's aperture does the exact same thing. It just uses a set of mechanical blades instead of muscle. So we've controlled the amount of light. But there's another crucial dimension we have to manage: time. For how long are we going to let that light hit the sensor? This calls for a second, totally different gatekeeper. And that's the shutter. It's basically a tiny, super fast curtain that lives right in front of the sensor. It stays shut, blocking all the light, until you press that button. Then, snap, it opens for just a fraction of a second. This is what lets you freeze action with a fast shutter or create that cool motion blur with a slow one. The simplest way to think about the shutter, it's a blink. Your eyelid is your body's own natural shutter. A quick blink lets you see a snapshot of the world. The camera's shutter is doing the same thing, just with way more precision. Okay, let's just pause for a second here, because this is a really important difference to get right. The aperture, that's like our pupil. It controls the quantity of light, which affects the photo's overall brightness. Then you've got the shutter, that's like our blink. It controls the duration of the light, which affects how motion looks in the shot. Two different jobs, both absolutely essential. So the light has been focused by the lens, the amount of light was set by the aperture, and the duration was timed by the shutter. Now what? Where does that light finally go? Well, it's reached the end of its journey, the canvas where the image is actually created. In today's digital cameras, that canvas is the sensor. It's this incredible little microchip covered in millions of tiny light-sensitive spots called pixels. You can think of them as little light buckets. When light hits a pixel, it creates a tiny electrical charge. The brighter the light, the stronger the charge. The camera then just reads that whole grid and turns it into the digital photo. And this brings our whole human eye comparison full circle. The sensor is the camera's retina. Your retina has a layer of light-sensitive cells that send signals to your brain. The camera sensor does the same thing, but instead of sending signals to a brain, it sends them to a memory card to create a permanent file. So now that we've met all the key players, let's watch them perform together. Because taking a photo isn't just a series of steps. It's a perfectly timed symphony, and the whole thing happens in less than the blink of an eye. Let's just run through that beautiful four-step process one more time. First, the lens gathers and focuses the light. Second, the aperture controls how bright it is. Third, the shutter opens for a precise moment in time. And fourth, the sensor records the final image. That's it. That's the perfect sequence behind every photo you've ever seen.
And here's the amazing part. Once you understand these mechanics, you realize they're not just a bunch of boring technical settings. They're artistic tools. Controlling the aperture, the shutter, the focus. That's how photographers literally paint with light, how they create a mood, and how they tell a compelling story, all within a single frame.
So the next time you look at a photograph, or even just look at the world around you, maybe you'll see it a little differently. Not just as a scene, but as a canvas of light, just waiting to be captured. The only question is, how will you choose to see it?